Welcome everyone to the CPA-fol podcast, episode 45. And let me tell you, you all know I'm a huge proponent, huge fan of the Bricklink Designer Program. And any chance that I have to interview a designer of the program is always a chance that I'm going to jump on every single time. So I'm very glad to say I've been trying to hype this up for as long as I could. You know, you get busy with life, you get busy with this and that, but I was able to put some time in, make sure the stream is going to be running buttery smooth. Don't want any hiccups tonight. But we're interviewing Rich Herbert, the designer of the Harbormaster's office. And I personally know so many people who are looking forward to purchasing this set on, Tuesday now? We're really already up to Tuesday? I can't believe. I remember when this thing was announced, I made a video on a couple of the other designs, but wow, this one, it's a good one. For any of you, we'll talk about the inspirations of this set. We'll talk about how he came up with these designs, how he, like already says, ready to add 2 to the cart. Oh man, and that's pretty much what I've been seeing across the board is so many people are a fan of this set, and it's priced right at that kind of sweet spot, like not too much, not pushing 300-400, right at that 200 mark. And let me tell you, I'm excited to put this one in my cart as well. This one is definitely going in my cart, to say the least. We'll hang out for just a second. I've got Rich hanging out in the queue. We got to build up a little bit of a crowd for him. We don't want any of the home team to be missing this one. So I'll say hey to a couple people in chat. First member hanging out, we've got Coolhan, Luke Bricks. Good to see you tonight. I know you're going to be heading to bed real soon, but glad you could start the stream with us. Stud Lake, I know you're ready for this one. You're ready for this set. Oh, you and me both, brother. Ready to add 2 to the cart. Yes. Riley, great to see you. Thanks for the gang over there stepping in for a bit. Appreciate the support as always. And then Kathleen, always great to see you supporting. Not a Bionicle stream today, but still, I think this is going to be one of my favorite streams. Of course, this is not the first Bricklink Designer Program interview, but I don't know. We might get to a point where this is one of my favorite interviews. So I'm very excited to see how this one's gonna go. And Riley, yeah, no, certainly we have many tiers for being a member. The cheapest one is only 99 cents. I just wanted to make one as cheap as possible. So certainly you can do that on the page if that's something you're interested in. All right, looks like we're currently at 10 people in the chat, 10 likes. So that being said, let's kick it on over and bring Rich on deck. How's it going today, Rich? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Dude, absolutely. And I know we were just talking about it beforehand, but I sent you a DM on Instagram because I saw Bricklink post their short or their reel. Which, do you put those together or do they put those together?
We work on it together.
Just a combo? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, oh, yes. Well, first of all, I saw you were from New Jersey, so that was kind of my first tip off of like, yes, he's in the same time zone as me. So the chances have automatically increased that we'll be able to pull this off.
Right.
And certainly you messaged almost right away, which I was very grateful for. We connected on that. So then here you are today. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Obviously, huge congratulations on winning or being a finalist for the Series 3 of the Bricklink Designer Program. I mean, right off the bat, you told me it's been almost a year or a little over a year since you first found out. Are you still kind of riding that high, or is it just like we're finally here? Because I know depending on anything in life, when you first find out to when you actually get to see it, you can kind of like not hit as hard. But how you feeling right now? A couple days out.
I am excited and incredibly nervous. This is, it's definitely been a long time coming. Like I said, I mean, it's been about a year since they notified me initially, and spent a good amount of time. There are, in the process, there's a lot of lulls, and then you're busy working with them, and then there's another lull, and then you're busy working with them, and it just seems like it's such a long time away. And even now, I mean, the crowdfunding is going to happen in just a couple of days. But it's still even a couple months away until you kind of physically get the set in your hands as well too. So it's really very nervous but very excited for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll get into a lot of those details as we have on the agenda today to talk about what it's like with the process.
Yeah.
You designing it yourself, then going to working with the Bricklink Designer Program team, just that whole process, which I'm intrigued on how it was for you. From other designers, I've heard nothing but good things, and I can only imagine.
It's amazing. It's really, really fun. Happy to chat about whatever. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So with you being now a hollowed designer for the Bricklink Designer Program, how'd you start getting into Lego? What was kind of the first steps for you getting into Lego yourself?
Oh boy. So
take it all the way back to the first.
I'll go all the way back. I mean, I don't know. It's 5 years old, right? Yeah. And I got a set of just bricks, and it was maybe 4 colors: red, yellow, blue, and black. A couple of tires, couple of doors, couple of trees. The little older kind of little pine trees, and I remember a red plastic little suitcase to carry them around in. So very not a theme set in any way or or anything like that. It was all very open-ended. So I used that for a long time. And as I got a little bit older, I did reach out kind of branch out a little bit into some of the more superhero sets and Star Wars sets here and there. But by the time I kind of graduated high school, I think like with most, it just kind of fell off. And Lego has had a pretty remarkable transformation. It just kind of seemed to align nicely between where I stopped, just when Lego Star Wars was coming out and DC. Even when the Lego Star Wars still had yellow, the yellow instead of the skin tones. Harry Potter just started coming out with the yellow and instead of the skin tones, and I had dropped off at that point. And I mean, what a difference, between then and now in terms of complexity, variety of parts, and building techniques, and what an incredible community that just comes up with the most amazing, innovative stuff. It's just, I'm blown away every time I see someone solve a problem using Lego, and to get that aesthetic that they're looking for is just really, really neat.
Yeah. So coming out of your dark ages, I think you said on a different interview, it it 2020? Were you a product of the COVID or a little after?
It was actually a little right before. So I'm going to say 2019, maybe late 2018, early 2019. And I had not touched Lego for at least 10 years. And that's a huge jump, because like you said, the design changes, just the figure changes, color tone changes over 10 years. And that, I mean, thinking from 2009 to 2019, that might be one of the biggest jumps. Even just themes alone, maybe themes you saw on shelves back in the day, those are long gone. Yeah. So seeing that, I'm sure that was kind of a culture shock, for lack of a better word. Oh, for sure. And, I'd casually stroll around the Lego store and be like, oh, that's neat. And I remember, now I remember seeing sets and I'm like, oh man, I wish I had gotten that. But at the time I just wasn't really into it. But my wife knew better, and so she grabbed one for me without me knowing. She said, "Here you go. I picked this up. I thought you would dig it." And that's funny. And it was, I built it straight, just from start to finish. I was like, this is way different. This is not what it used to be. Yeah. And just the options, and variety in the parts, and just what you could do was just so much more than what it had been prior. So immediately after that, I'm sure she's probably regretting it now, but boy, I'll tell you what, man, I was right back there.
I can see your background. You've you got a couple higher dollar sets back there.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, what are you gonna do? But so she brought me back in, and I've been hooked since.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we'll get into what exactly the set was that you got. But as far as the category, is it a Lego Ideas?
It was a Lego Ideas set.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
It's ironic that your first set out of the Dark Ages was that, and here we are talking about another, some say more prestigious designer program versus the Lego Ideas, but regardless, another
definitely fan driven for sure.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool connection point there.
Absolutely.
So then going from, which for me it's a huge jump because I don't see myself as very creative. I'm a CPA. We're not, for better or worse, known for being very creative, which is probably a good thing when you're dealing with stuff that should be objective.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like numbers.
Yeah. Yep.
But getting into designing Lego sets, to me, that's like you've got purchasing and building retail sets, and then designing is in my mind, a completely different way of interacting with the toy or with the product. So how did you make that jump from retail customer to designing?
Really good question. So it was kind of, I don't want to say out of necessity, but there were things I wanted that just weren't there, weren't available. And so, after the first couple of sets, I immediately kind of grabbed whatever modular set I could, and start putting together like a little city or a little layout. And I'm like, boy, I want a hospital in my little layout. And I built a very rudimentary hospital. I grabbed some parts, and that was really the first time where it was all I wanted to do was just work on that. That was it. I built it and rebuilt it, I don't know, 10 times. It's so far, back from what I can kind of do now. But I just was hooked. I was like, yeah, this is neat. You had, I was just amazed at the freedom I had to say, okay, I'm just gonna make whatever I want. Right. So if I wanted to make, if I want to try to get an elevator going, I'm going to try to make an elevator. I'm going to try to make some sliding doors. I'm going to put a helipad on the roof. I'm going to do whatever, and I used initially some pieces or some components of sets to start. So like I use like a stock ambulance, or not stock, but like off the shelf ambulance, and maybe some off the shelf mini builds, but the building itself was mine. And that's kind of how I transitioned. It was a little bit of kind of looking at what was there. So I would, purchase, a couple of sets, and kind of just slowly but surely make them my own. You could see initially in some of my designs, they were it's very heavily inspired by what was off the shelf. Yeah. And then I slowly started to kind of move away from that and start from scratch. I watched a ton of videos. I grabbed a bunch of parts. I can't even tell you how many things I've built and disassembled, and just like ideas abandoned that just was like, I can't figure this out, So there was definitely a lot of that, for sure. But boy, I really do, as much as I love putting the sets together, I really do enjoy the challenge of design, and I really do view it as like a puzzle to solve. And how quickly after that first set in 2019 did you really flip into, hey, I want something of my own, I want to create my own set, so I'm gonna actually do that? Like how quick was that transition? It was probably mid-pandemic, so or right post-pandemic. So I would say late 2020, early 2021. So it was about 2 years after. I had scooped up a bunch of sets during the pandemic, and it was at that point where I started experimenting a little bit on my own. But I would say 2021, is where I started doing some side projects, small buildings, I was forever afraid to try to attempt a car because it just wasn't, I was like, I can make a building, okay, but like cars were like, so I remember the first time I tried to put, I put a car together, and I was just, very, the more compact you get, you know what I mean? Like the more challenging it is.
I mean, those I don't know if you've built the speed champions before.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Those
I
things
can't
are
even. Yeah.
Wild. Like
100%. I just
creative.
can't even, I can't even imagine that spatial thinking to the pieces in all different directions upside down trying to, I mean, it's just bonkers. So, I little by little, I started to make, another thing I wanted was a police station, and this was prior to the modular police station coming out. And so I was like, okay, I'll make a police station. That one was, was quite a bit better than the hospital, but it wasn't great. It wasn't super sturdy. It was a little rickety. And you're kind of learning the techniques and the structure and all that good stuff and how the different parts relate to each other. But I would probably say within the past 1.5 to 2 years, really right before I started participating in the Bricklink Designer Program, I really invested in, I need to figure out like the relationship between these parts, the math of it, and how do these all kind of work together. Because it's such a complex system, but the more you know about it, the more you can take advantage of it. To get snot or things upside down, or to kind of get the shapes you want. And to me, it's like I said, it's all about kind of problem solving. How do I get the aesthetic I want, or the piece I want with the parts I have, where it's stable. It's always like a challenge or puzzle for me.
So with these interviews, I'm always curious to hear what people do for a living, because I always feel like that has some sort of bearing on how they interact with, especially the design process. I know Mind the Brick, Maria, she is a jeweler, so dealing with kind of these intricate small details that, like you said, have to be proportionate, have to align. So I'm really curious if you wouldn't mind sharing just kind of what you do for a living, because I feel like that has to have some sort of bearing on just you wanting to get into the math and all that sort of aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. So happy to kind of dive into that. I am a systems administrator. So I handle systems configuration for a decent sized company. But the logic kind of plays into it. So when you're managing a large system with a lot of users and a lot of functionality, you definitely have to understand the relationship between doing something over here and what happens over here. Or you'll often be tasked with trying to figure out something that the business might need. And there's no, there may be no basis for it, or nothing, hasn't been done before. So it's like, okay, this is the desired output. How do I use what I have to make that happen? So there's definitely some parallels there for sure. Without a doubt. I think also I work with a lot of constraints. So there's not only financial constraints, but just limitations of what the system can do and how can you be creative with the system. And so that translates directly as well to, specifically, I think with the Bricklink Designer Program, that you're pretty restricted in terms of the parts and content and and how you can, what you can use. So to me, like, that's what I always say is, and I've always, constraints breed creativity. Like the less you kind of give me, the more I have to really kind of figure out, like, how do you get the most out of it? I think if you have a blank check in every part in the world, or, it doesn't really challenge you, to come up with something, super unique, Yeah,
that's interesting. I feel like most people would probably think the opposite of, oh, I wish I had all this other stuff. But yeah, to your extent, to your explanation, your point, it can be the opposite of, it's a challenge of, hey, can I really work with what I have? Because obviously the BDP team, they wouldn't purposely limit you if they knew if they knew a part. Like, oh, well, we're going to keep this part out. So
no, it's
good luck without a 2x4 brick.
No, for sure. I mean, there's definitely, a huge portion of the palette that, what they call evergreen, where it's always going to be available. You're always going to have a 2x4 red brick, right? It's just what's going to happen. But there's loads and loads that are, they come in and out of the palette, or they're only there for one series, or they're only available in a certain color. And you're limited by, it has to be at least 400 parts, can't be more than 4,000. There's limits on stickers and minifigures and even guidelines. I mean, there are a lot of guidelines in the program, and it's very transparent, very clear. But even how you can connect pieces, there are limitations there in terms of what's an allowable connection. I think we all know, legal versus illegal, but there's even a little bit more in play there. And so, what I like about it is that the rules are all laid out. So that does it for me. I'm good. Like, tell me what the rules of the game are, and just let me have it. Can I figure out how to maximize those rules, or exploit those rules, or whatever it is, manipulate them in such a way where I'm still adhering to the requirements, but I can come up with something, creative. Yeah,
absolutely. And so with your, I'm deciding if I want to get into, if we can kind of keep it like maybe 5 minutes, because I didn't have it on the agenda, but I found it super interesting with your whole discussion of getting into the math, getting into the relationships of all these parts, and doing research in how to do maybe the basics of XYZ or something like that. Can you kind of give an overview of how you did that? Because that seems like quite the undertaking that I wouldn't even know really where to start.
Yeah, there are some amazing YouTubers out there that come up with some incredible techniques, and I think so. I definitely am inspired by them. A lot of times it is I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm like discovering things on my own. I'm sure they already exist, but you kind of happen upon them, just by playing with the pieces. But building official sets is a great way to kind of to learn the relationship between the parts. And I remember when it kind of first clicked for me that if you do a snot brick, 2 plates, and a snot brick, like, you can do a 1x4 tile, and it fits perfully. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's like such a that's such a staple of like of design that I use, and you'll see it like a ton of times in the Harbormaster's office with some of the corner details. It works perfectly. And so, that once I kind of dug in and was like, okay, well, 3 plates are a brick, got that. And, stacked on top of each other are the same as a brick. And this, use of the headlight brick and half a plate thick and all those things that kind of come into play. It's definitely, still trial and error, but there are some hard and fast rules for sure. And you're just like, I know this is going to work. And I end up doing a lot of things digitally because I have a high confidence level they're going to work, because it's, the math is there.
Yeah. The system, I've dabbled with it a little bit. The system will tell you if it's not going to work, which is always a good thing. It happens a lot for some reason whenever I was building it. I don't know why. But that kind of gets me to the next question of, did you only start building digitally for the BDP, or did you mess around prior to even thinking that was going to be an option for you?
So I really only started building digitally for the BDP, and it was kind of out of necessity because I didn't have, well, one, I mean, you have to for that program. But even if I was going to, once kind of Lego Ideas took off and stuff, maybe I'll submit something, and I just didn't have the ability or flexibility to purchase a ton of parts and try to make something physically. I generally will will build something physically if I'm trying to like prove out a concept or see if something is stable or stay together. I mean, the really neat thing with Studio is that, you do have, it'll tell you, hey, this is going to fit or not fit, or there's a conflict. But what it doesn't tell you is it's not going to hold up under gravity, or as soon as you touch it, it's going to collapse. All right. So there are some things. So there are some things that, little bits and pieces where you're like, all right, is this going to work? I mean, it works here, but I definitely have to gather the parts and see, because, and there's been plenty of times where, it looks like a nice design in Studio, and then you put it together physically and it's going to, it falls apart. So I'm like, all right, well, I can't do that. So but that was really where I kind of moved into digital. My first couple of mocks were bricks, physical bricks, but if I'm going to make something either for BDP or Lego Ideas or, even for myself, I almost always start digitally now. That's where I am 100%. And when I get a complete design, I'll make it physically, or like I said, I'll build out a couple of parts, a couple of pieces here or there. But I do very much love the flexibility that the digital program gives me.
Yeah, awesome. And they've made that. They have several updates. I know we're at what 2 point something right now, but
it's a really it's a really user friendly program. I attempted Lego Digital Designer right prior to Studio, and I gave up on that like
a little rough. I imagine.
For sure. Now Studio, to me, is a really nice program. And the more you learn about it, the more you can get out of it.
Awesome. And so moving into some of your designs, we'll kick it over to the screen share, which I will tell you. Actually, I might be able to share the screen. Do you happen to already have the stream up?
I don't.
That's fine.
I don't.
Okay. Let's see if I can share. I have so you can start talking about it. I have your hardware store.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of on the screen first.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
This was your Series 2 update, of course, your Series 2 submission.
Yep.
And kind of tell us, this sounds like it was sort of a product of your desire to have something maybe that you would want in your Lego City?
Yep, totally.
Yeah, kind of going off that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was it. I really wanted that in the city. I really wanted something unique, but also fit with the other modulars. Oh, there it is right there. This was the first time, really, to be quite honest, that I made something and put it out there for really anyone to see, kind of beyond just like my friends and family and stuff, weren't just like, hey, what's going on? I didn't have a social media following. I still really don't, but I mean, in this case, this was really the first time I was like, all right, let's see how people react. And this set in particular, I mean, people did like quite a bit. So it was really very energizing to me and validating that I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. I really did like this one. It's very charming to me. And this was one that, it was tough competition, that series. Brickster had the Brick Cross train station. And I remember, it's fantastic. And I remember, as that voting period was going on, I was like, boy, if I'm gonna lose, it's gonna be that guy, because that's an amazing set, and boy, he nailed me. But I don't
know if you know this, but I actually have that set already.
Oh, you do? Oh, wow, you got it early. Okay,
I was super lucky to Bricklink was at Brickworld Chicago, and
cool.
They let the fans build it and all that stuff. So very lucky to have that one, which here I can give you a little right there.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So it was such an awesome design process and build process and all that stuff. It was a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure. I ordered it. I can't wait for it to be here. I'm gonna I'll put it together as well too.
Awesome.
Yeah, but that I had followed like the invitational for for the BDP. So before they did the series, before they started doing like series 1, 2, 3, and up to 6 now, they had an invitational where they would basically take like Lego Ideas submissions that hit the 10,000 but didn't get realized. And I thought it was very interesting. I picked up a couple of those. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then when they opened it back up, I observed the first series. I was like, all right, this is awesome. I wonder if I can do this. I tried, and it was pretty well received, so that boosted me a little bit. This one in particular, I like it. I built this one physically. It's sitting in my city right now.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of this was I worked out a lot of techniques in this one and really got a good understanding of what it means to build something from the ground up, for stability and aesthetics and how everything lines up and all that stuff. This is probably one of the more detailed things I've put together.
Yeah, no, it looks great. It would look good in really any city. Of course, it would have to be with the new rule changes. It would have to be a little bit adjusted.
A little bit different, yeah. This is definitely not one that would get selected.
But
I think
easy fixes, I imagine.
Yeah, but easy fix. And I think with this one, this was it kind of keeps a little bit, you can kind of see a little bit of a theme across everything that I do, in that I want to try to get a little bit of humor in there, a little bit of like the Lego, silliness, or charm, I guess. So
Hmm.
the folks, the two guys carrying the couch up the stairs to the apartment, I thought was great.
Was that a Friends reference for the pivot, or was that
I
just
mean,
unintentional?
I mean, it was, I was definitely, there was definitely that vibe of like, they're going to have a hard time doing this, and even, throughout, I mean, the whole idea of like, this guy, bought, he bought an apartment that, and then it immediately kind of fell apart on him, and everything, and he had to kind of fix everything.
Yes,
So,
the renovation.
yeah, yeah. So,
Awesome.
so I tried to kind of keep that as I go with other designs, to kind of keep that, I guess, I describe it as like charm, I guess.
Hmm.
Something that's kind of just fun, quirky. It's realistic, so it's not like completely off base or anything, but it's, I try to get that sense of humor in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now finally transitioning to what the people came for. I know
Sure.
people in chat, thank you for sticking around so far. Holding you off long enough. We're going to get into the Harbormaster's office, which now we can finally share. I wanted to just be only because I already knew from your videos
Sure.
and another interview that what your first set was coming back, because I don't know how much you see of like what people are talking about
Yeah.
for these sets. I don't know if there's really any good place, or whether it's just the comments of this or wherever that may be, but obviously huge comparisons to the old fishing store, which
Yeah.
was your first set back into Lego after your dark ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Great set, amazing set. It was, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I was just so blown away by the amount of detail you could squeeze out of these bricks, and the variety of parts. The interior, I mean, the exterior is wonderful, but the interior of that shop was just so jam packed with stuff, and it just blew me away. I was like, this is incredible. And so I definitely drew inspiration from that for this, without a doubt. I liked the whole idea of being, on the water, and also that high level of detail as well too. So a lot of similarities, I would say. Yeah, boy, get that set. My wife picked it up, and like I said, I mean, that was it. I was gone after that.
Yeah. And so one of my college friends, actually, he's been on the podcast a couple times in the early days. He preached about the old fishing store so much, and he was so sad because he actually missed it. I don't know if he was just waiting for it, or something else was a little higher on the list, but he missed it. And he was, of course, so sad for that. But, of course, when this set came out, he was like, I am not missing this.
I'm going.
one.
Yeah.
I am certainly getting
Awesome.
the Harbormaster's office
Awesome.
for this one. So obviously, yeah, huge inspiration from that. And any other inspiration that led you to this design here?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple things. So I grew up right on the kind of the Jersey coast, and so definitely a lot of areas, or definitely a lot of times summers, where we'd be at the beach and boardwalk, and you'd see a lot of different buildings with this type of architecture, a lot of boats in and out all over the place, harbors and marinas all over the place, and I really like the idea of someone kind of directing traffic. And I started this one really with with that minifigure. I mean, that was really my first piece. Was I'm going to make this this Harbormaster, and give him a little bit of a personality. He's definitely no nonsense. There's no doubt about it. His safety is priority, and from there, I kind of built the world around him, or the set around him. And I do often do that with my designs. Is I try to figure out who lives in there, and what their personality is, and then kind of create a place for them. So yeah, definitely inspiration from there, inspiration from the Harbormaster's office, even a little bit of Jaws, the movie Jaws, the Harbormaster there. I mean, I was like,
I'm sure people will be mixing the the Jaws Lego
Yeah.
idea set with this one.
Yeah, totally not planned or just incidental. I didn't even know if that one was announced at the time that I put this one together, but yeah, that was a little bit of an inspiration too. I really dug the idea of just a lot of traffic and commotion going on, and just this guy just steeped in maps and equipment and trying to keep everything in order,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And otherwise with so that clear inspiration, of course, across the board, and very, very evident in the final design, of course. But with the design itself, I mean, there's a lot going on here just with the lower level, with the building itself, with the docks kind of being a very large footprint, and then, of course, with the boat next to it, of course. Like, where'd you start with this? Did it start with the underwater? Did it start with the dock and the building? Like, what's kind of the footprints there?
It started with the building itself, and my original attempt at building was much smaller, and it was kind of rickety and worn down, and it was drab and boring, to be honest with you. And I didn't like it initially. The shaping was similar, but it had no personality. So I made a couple I started immediately trying to get some signage on there, and some parts around in terms of like tanks and things like that. And then I referenced a couple of reference images, and I saw one with a gas pump, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna get a gas pump on here. And so that then required I needed to have like a dock for it to sit on.
Yeah.
So got that. And then, I said, logically in my mind, I was like, well, this just seems silly because where is the gas coming from, right, for this gas pump? So I was like, all right, well, let me just see. Can I just go like a brick or two underneath, and I'll put like a little like pipe down. But as you build it and put it together, there's actually like a submerged tank underneath with all coral and crabs and stuff.
That's cool.
That's feeding the pump through the dock. So from there, it just kind of exploded a little bit to say, all right, well, now I'm at these 2 levels. What else can I put down there? So some rocks and coral and fish. And again, we were kind of pretty limited initially, so it really wasn't as developed as it is now when I submitted. But and I went back and forth as to, should I keep that piece? Should I keep that area? Should I just cut it off? I didn't know. But I'm happy I kept it because it does add a lot of life. It adds a lot of character. It makes it a little bit unique. So I do like it for sure. But I definitely started with the building and worked my way down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into some of those. You mentioned some differences at the time of submission versus now, and we'll get into those because for anyone that had been paying attention from the initial submission until now, there definitely were some changes. And all of them very interesting. A couple changes. Yeah. But we'll get to that because I still want to learn about some struggles. Were there any real struggles? Any speed bumps you ran into? Any things that almost had you stumped with this set, with this design?
Yeah. So once I kind of decided I wanted it raised up a little bit so you can kind of see underneath, it really did present a problem in terms of stability. I had originally had, and this is, as I was kind of speaking before earlier about like proving something out physically, because each of the pilings was kind of on its own plate. I didn't really have a lot of development. So it was like each of the pilings was kind of just on a single round plate. And I did, I was almost close to that design. And like, how are you going to pick this thing up? Right? How are you going to move it? Right? Because as soon as you pick it up, like everything's going to fall from the bottom. So that was definitely one where I had to go back and forth quite a bit to tinker with it, to get it to be structurally sound, because it is hollow underneath, so you could see everything. You look in and you get some really, really nice angles as you peer in underneath there. But it needs to be stable, especially when you're putting that building on top of it and everything. And it's rock solid. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you could pick it up and
Awesome.
So it's not going anywhere, but it was definitely a challenge to get it to that point, to where it is structurally sound. You definitely don't want a situation where you push down on and it explodes out from underneath,
Definitely.
Definitely so that was definitely a challenge for sure. And I mean, there were others. I mean, the roof angle on the left side, where the angled roof comes in, right there, kind of where your mouse is.
Yep.
Really difficult to kind of close that gap. And I went, a bunch of different ways to try to make it happen. And we ended up with doing something with some panel pieces and some snot to get it to fill in nicely. So, but that was a challenge as well too. Yeah.
Real quick interjection. How did you settle on the coloring of the building? Was that more of just a color that you noticed throughout your location where you are and buildings you had seen there?
Yeah, I had originally wanted, to be quite honest with you, I wanted sand blue for the color, and the parts were not available. So I reverted back. I looked at olive green again. There was some.
I would have loved olive green.
Yeah, but it did end up being a little bit too similar to the fishing store.
Oh yeah.
And again, like, you're limited in the parts, so I needed some. I needed some snot bricks. I needed some brackets. I needed some slope pieces, and the dark bluish gray is a staple color. You can get almost everything in that color, and so part by constraint and part just by how did it look, kind of contrast with the white, the black, and the brown, and it just looked okay. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go with dark bluish gray, and I'm going to commit to that. It had all the parts I needed, and that's kind of how I landed on that color. But originally, I mean, had I had complete availability of all parts, sand blue was my first pick, and I tried to make it sand blue, and I was like, I can't. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, I just don't have the pieces to do it. So but I think it came out, with that. I think that color is okay, because it
definitely works.
Yeah, because it's it makes all the other colors pop. The signage pop, the windows pop, the gas pump, and especially the blue underneath. It all gives a really, really nice contrast. So
and that's kind of the other aspect that I was thinking of, is if it was the sand blue, it would melt a little into the
and clash a little bit
into the ocean floor, if you will.
So
I think that was...
so I'm very happy with the color. I'm glad that that's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, I'm bound to these parts. These are the colors I have, and so I'm gonna have to kind of make it work. And I think that led to a lot of extra signage. It led to a lot of extra details. It led to a lot of things to kind of break up the plainness of the gray.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with this, I love the modular aspect, because you can certainly take parts off.
Yep.
Look on the inside, display it kind of any way from that aspect. So going into the inside, and there's a couple good pictures. I have the cabin, if you will. Yeah. But any little details, any interesting things on the inside that you can point out for us?
Yeah. So and I think there should be a first floor picture as well too. Maybe I think it might be like maybe the third or fourth picture. Yeah, there we go. So you can get a little bit of a view in there, as well too. So lots of interior detail, no doubt about it. That first floor is jam packed with stuff, all kinds of equipment and maps and compasses and loudspeakers. I mean, and safety equipment and all. I mean, literally, this guy is like loaded up with stuff. Lots of good stuff in there. And then he's got a chair that he can kind of relax in as well too. And he's even has a secret stash of like some harpoons in case of whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, and a couple of newspaper clippings, I guess, from his younger days or whatever. So so pretty neat there. Up on the second floor, I made a little loft where he can sleep. I kind of, again, pictured this guy as, he's almost like a workaholic. He's there all the time. He wants to make sure everything is good. So there are days where he just doesn't go home and just stays there. So made a little bed up there for him.
Nice.
You can't see in these pictures, but as you turn around the model, you'll see that he too is a Lego fan. So he's got a little model of the let me see if we can.
I'm checking
I don't know
if
if
you
you'll
had
get
any
it.
Instagram
Yeah,
photos
let
of
me
it.
see.
Ooh, that
Yep,
might be a
keep
good
going.
one.
Yeah, there's a good one of the original model. Yep, there we go. Okay, cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, so he's
Oh,
got
yeah, I see
yeah,
it.
perfect. Yep. So he's got a little model of the motorized lighthouse, and then the ship in the bottle hanging on the
Nice.
wall there as well too. So that's really neat. And then just the simple stairs that were really really neat and fun to put together. The entire second floor, if you could believe it, with all of that in there, is only 5 bricks high. Like, it's super
Wow.
dense, and so
Yeah,
it
that is
looks a
really
lot
dense.
larger. Yeah, it looks a lot larger than it is, but I really did kind of cram a lot in there. So yeah, excited to, and in fact, one of the things that was different between this submission and the new submission is actually had to change the direction of the tiles for a little bit of stability. So you might notice that at eagle eye, as you look here versus the other one, the flooring is going left to right instead of up and down on the new model. So
Okay.
things like that, and we can get into like
Yeah.
the differences once you get selected and you refine the model. But yeah, that was one of the changes where it's like, okay, we're simple solution. We need a little bit more stability, so let's just turn the tiles the other way, and that'll give us what we need.
Yeah, and we'll certainly get to that really quick.
Yeah.
I want to, quick question, have you built this set? Is this a set that you built with your own parts that you were able to in real life, or have you not actually built this yet?
Yeah, so generally when I do something, like I built a hardware store, it didn't get selected. So I'm like, all right, well, if I want it, I'm gonna have to make it. So I did. And other things I've done, but this one, I'm waiting. I'm like, I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna buy. When I get a copy, I'm gonna build it. So I built parts of it, little bits and pieces. I have a couple of things around. I have a little model of the gas pump here, and a couple of things, but I have not built the entire set. And I would have if it didn't get selected, but since it got selected at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm waiting, and I'm gonna experience. I'm gonna open the box and do it myself.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be a really fun experience.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
certainly.
it's incredible. Yeah,
very rewarding, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so when you're in the submission process, waiting, then you finally get that email.
Yeah.
Or probably a phone call or an invite to a meeting where Alex, love that guy.
Yes, I love him. He's
gonna talk to you about, hey,
yeah.
I feel like he does it. Does he not do it a little trickily? Like, he doesn't let on that it's just another meeting, or is it like special Bricklink Designer Program meeting invite?
So it's, I can't speak to anyone else's experience, but for me, it was not apparent right away that I was a finalist. He had questions, so I said, okay, cool. And I'm like, all right, I'm happy. Like, of course, what questions do you have? Yes, let's go. But then immediately when we got on the phone, he was like, all right, you made it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And but because this was really just such a surprise to me, it really was. The competition in these series it's just ridiculous. I mean, people are really, really good. And I was hopeful, but I wasn't, I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe after 4 or 5 series, 6 series, maybe as I refine whatever. So this was a total surprise to me. I mean, very pleasant surprise and welcome surprise for sure. But I was kind of like, it seemed logical to me to be like, okay, yeah, he's probably got a couple of questions. I definitely didn't win, so I wonder what he wants to know. But yeah, so it was shocking for sure.
Yeah, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I had the opportunity to build Brick Cross, and so of course Alex goes to all the conventions.
Yeah.
He interacts with the fans on that basis, on that respect, and so sitting there, building it for I think the final tally came to like literally 8 hours straight. I didn't get up because I was like, I started this. I really want to experience the process, and I'm not stopping until. Partially it was because if I leave, someone else is going to finish it, and I don't want someone else to finish it. So I did that, and of course, he was there for maybe about half of it, but just talking to him about the process, talking to him about what it's like for you all as designers, as finalists, and so definitely got the sense that he's literally one of us. He's one of the community. And wants to make this the best possible program for the fans to enjoy sets that, like you said, I shouldn't say no one built a set like this because of your inspiration, but it's no longer available, and it's different, of course. But we're getting sets that we literally want because of the voting, because of how the system works. So from that respect, it was just awesome to learn that any not negative, but any potential issues that I thought was with the Bricklink Designer Program, none of those were true. It's purely voting, unless of course the portfolio conflict, which is awesome and definitely fair, obviously, from Lego's perspective. But talk to us about the process once you were selected, because then it goes from just designing it to meet the requirements of submission to designing it to meet the requirements of a full scale BDP release. So what was that process like?
Super fun. There were so many calls I was on with Lego designers, and they have my set there. We're looking at it digitally. They have physical parts of it, and it was just like surreal. It was just such a surreal experience and so much fun. And I will say you have total control pretty much in the Bricklink Designer Program. Everything is, is this okay? What do you think about this option? This maybe needs to be adjusted because it's, again, for stability issues, or maybe for the purposes of instruction or something like that. And they'll defer to you all the time. Which is really, really neat. So I definitely feel as if I had complete control over this design. There was never really a situation, with a couple of exceptions and we can chat about, but there was never really a situation where I didn't feel like I was like heavily involved. And there were plenty of calls that were supposed to be, 30 or 45 minutes that ended up being 2.5 hours of or longer of really, really fun kind of, again, problem solving, right? We need to get this particular shape, but, it's not working the way you have it. So how do we, how can we do it differently? This piece, unfortunately is going to be out of production at the time. So we're going to need to replace it. And it might be something structural that we're going to have to figure out a different way to do it. So that was like so much fun to me. I can't say enough about kind of that process and working with Alex and the designers to really kind of refine the design and get it where it needs to be. Super fun, just amazing. I mean, I would be happy to be on the phone with them all day, like figuring out new ways to put pieces together. It's just awesome. And
that's interesting that it sounds like once you get selected, the onus or the responsibility is really on them to make it work with your help, I guess, or is it still on you? Like you have homework where you have to, hey,
I have homework.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No,
so
there's no doubt about it. Like it's on me. Yeah. So they'll say, hey, this needs to be fixed, or we can't use this the way you have it because of this and this. It's primarily around stability or if pieces there's there may be too much tension, or if pieces there were a couple of pieces that it looked just fine from a digital perspective, and even Studio didn't flag it as a collision, but when you built it physically, it was like, there's a collision here, and it's so slight, but we need to fix it.
Yeah.
So, but that was on me for sure. Like, they gave me a list and said, here, look, you have to address these issues. And so in some cases we talked through them together and came up with solutions, and others, it was, all right, well, I'll take it away. I mean, the desk, the Harbormaster's office desk, the way I had originally kind of put it together, I built it. Let me see. Yep. The way I had put it together, I built it in studio digitally, like in the building. And when it came time to say, okay, well, we need to make instructions for this. You're going to build this as like a sub-assembly, this desk. It didn't work. You couldn't build it outside of the room. And then pick it up and put it in. It wasn't structurally sound. So that was homework for me. It was like, all right, you have to remake this. And you have to come up with a way where it has good structural integrity on its own, so it could be built separately and then placed in there. So I did, and that's cool. And I came back and I was like, okay, here it is. And they're like, yep, that'll work. And it looks exactly the same. And that's really where a lot of the challenge is you don't want to lose the aesthetic, but you have to figure out another way to do it. And to me, like, I really actually love that, because it is like, it's a problem. It's a puzzle, right? It is. I don't want, I can't have I don't want to have everything change. And so I want to keep it looking the same way. I want it to function the same way, but I have to find different pieces or a different method or technique to get to that outcome. And that to me is like the most appealing of this whole thing of Lego in general, is like, what combination of parts in what orientation gets you what you need. Yeah.
So how many, that sounds like this is a huge commitment, honestly.
Oh yeah.
And how many hours, like average hours per week during the higher seasons of this would you kind of estimate?
I mean, I would say I never really went more than, for me, I never went more than like 10 or 12 hours in a week.
Okay.
So it wasn't too heavy, and like I said, there were a lot of like, it ebbs and flows. So immediately when you are selected, you kind of have the meeting, and they will recreate your design right there, and we immediately kind of review everything in the design, and we kind of end up with an initial kind of punch list of, okay, these are the things that need to be adjusted. Cool. And then we'll work on those. Some time will pass, we'll revisit. There were I think 3 iterations in total. And so then the second time, are there any other remaining problems that need to be fixed? Cool. Hey, Rich, is there anything else you want to add to this, before we lock it in? So that too was really neat. The team over there had some suggestions, but they also allowed me to kind of, it allowed me additional parts and pieces as well, to kind of expand further. It was, there would be weeks and weeks that would go by where I would hear nothing. And then there would be like, oh, Rich, you have to do this. And then once which is fine. And then once the design kind of got locked in, then it would be weeks and weeks and weeks and nothing. And then I was like, all right, well, let's start figuring out like marketing materials. So you need to, do your interview and create a video, and here are the photos, and choose, how do you want the set to be laid out on the box and all that stuff. So it was, I was definitely involved throughout. Yeah. And plenty of things that were, my responsibility and the other designer's responsibilities. Alex would be like, here you go. You got a due date. These are the things you need to do. And I'm like, all right. And definitely don't want to be late, man, no matter what.
Definitely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay. Going on to some of the changes, because you mentioned those, some changes that maybe you were on board with, opportunity with to add new things, specifically right off the bat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, maybe you knew this from working with them, but the Seagull was going out of production.
Yes. I was go ahead.
I was going to say, how does it feel knowing that you are the person who is keeping, for all the Seagull fans? I personally know someone who was very sad and even brought it up to Alex at Brickworld Chicago and said, how are you guys going to do this? The Seagull's going out of production. And he said, he kind of, we've got a solution for that.
Yeah.
So
They had a stash. So yeah, and as I was designing this, prior to the submission, I was like, oh man, no seagulls, right? Because they just weren't available, and I'm like, but I mean, that's it. It's you have that limitation, so cool, whatever. And then almost immediately after after it's selected, on one of the calls, they're like, all right, here's some additional parts. And lo and behold, the seagull was like right there. I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm taking it. So
nice.
I couldn't load it up with like 30 seagulls or something like that. But there was enough to get 2 per set. So I tossed them in there. I was able to grab a shark, a turtle, some of the hermit crabs. So they're so able to get some of those parts as well too, or those pieces in. To really kind of flesh out underneath. So that was really neat. Let me see if I think on the other, there we go. Yeah, so you get the turtle right there and the shark underneath. So those were not pieces that were available, but it opens up a little bit once you get selected. The palette that you deal with initially does expand a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, I would say probably the volume of parts that they have, like now it makes sense. You know what I mean? They wouldn't necessarily include a turtle because who knows if someone's going to put 10 turtles and maybe they wouldn't be able to handle all that. But a turtle is fine, and then also new pieces come out as well too while you're in the process. And as long as they're in production, they're in game. So so we added the turtle, we added the shark, we added the hermit crabs and stuff, and then it really started to flesh out underneath there. And the discussion was around, well, what else is going on down there, and let's get a diver down there. So cool. So we made a diver and built a little underwater camera. So now she's down there, taking pictures of stuff. And so that definitely got more and more fleshed out as we go. And even the tires on the side there, I'm going to tell you right now, I had tires, flexible parts in studio. I mean, Studio is wonderful, but man, chains are like the worst. And I tried so many ways to get the tires in, and I ended up having to abandon them. So again, almost right after I got selected, I was like, dude, can we get tires in there on the chains? And they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. I was like, I couldn't make them work in studio no matter what. They never worked. It always looked weird. I couldn't get them to work properly. So I was really happy about that too. That was something I wanted from the beginning, but I just couldn't get it to work.
Adding those tires, in my opinion, just adds like a completely new level of, like you said, making that aesthetic work. Yeah. It's like, of course they would be there. You'd have tires hanging off the edge, so a boat knocking up against it wouldn't just smash into the dock. So just little stuff like that make it super cool and awesome. Real quick, what's this little...
So that's that fuel tank I was mentioning before. Okay,
that's a fuel tank.
Yeah, it's right underneath the gas pump. It's all covered in kind of coral and sea life and stuff. And there's a row or a stack of round bricks that goes right up and connects it to the gas pump.
We have a question from someone in the chat real quick.
Oh, awesome.
And it's important because we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
So he said, this is from Nick and Bricks. So where is the water line supposed to be? Approximately at the bottom of the boat is his question mark?
Yeah, exactly right. And we can chat about that boat as well too. But the water line is basically right at the bottom of the boat.
Okay.
So it kind of goes just like that. So it's almost like right at the base of the dock, and it ebbs and flows or whatever, but it's about right there. And so you do get like that level underneath of what's going on. But yeah, ideally or not ideally, but that's where it's intended to be.
I just realized, how cool would it be if someone built a little tank and put this in there with the water line right up to that? That'd be pretty cool. I'm sure someone out there
to get it in like a fish tank. Yep.
That'd be cool. So talking about the boat,
so
insider
that boat,
knowledge,
but, go ahead,
take it away.
So for sure, the boat was like the last thing I made, and I was almost all ready to go, and I needed some more characters. I only had like the two minifigures. So I'm like, all right, well, let me see, can I get a couple of people there? What would they be doing? And so I needed I was like, all right, well, I'll put them in a boat. And then I ran into the problem of, well, what do I do with this boat? Because the whole thing is raised up. So that was it. That was something where I was like, all right, well, now I'm really I was committed. I had the underneath.
Yeah.
So I needed to find a solution where the boat made sense to come up to the dock. And so I raised it a little bit. I put a little bit of the water underneath. And as I was doing that, I was like, okay, well, there's an opportunity here. It's a fishing boat. It's a little bit of a motorboat. I could have fish directly underneath. And so one of the original images, and I think we selected it here too as well, where you see like the father and daughter in the boat, they're fishing and the fish is directly underneath. So I really, really dug that. Like I said, it was an interesting problem to solve. The boat comes off. You can always have it separate if you wanted to, but that was. I was like, yeah, I want to have the boat, but how can I make that work? So I raised it up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And now there should be enough room, I can only imagine, for someone to put the Jaws boat on this little platform, maybe potentially. Or just build a bigger platform.
I don't see why not. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Have it dock in there. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
So other changes, and so we talked about the seagull.
Yep.
Being a good change. The creatures underneath being another change.
Yep.
I'm gonna take it back to your Instagram because I was gonna have to do like the little archive website thing to the Bricklink, and I was glad that you had it yourself.
Yeah.
But with the recent changes that were announced to the Bricklink Designer Program, then of course across the board with virtually all Lego sets getting rid of essentially all petrol.
Yeah.
You had this sticker here with octane gas.
Yep.
Of course,
I had diesel stickers around. Yeah.
The diesel sticker on the back side. Diesel sold here. Another gas sticker. Of course, the implications. Does it say octane gas?
It does. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a huge change that I think whenever this went to the first convention that Bricklink posted a picture of, I remember me and some other buddies were like, oh, they changed it. They got rid of gas, because we were curious as well just what they would do with that. So did that hit early on, or what was the process?
100%. It was almost immediate. It was almost immediately.
Okay.
And Alex said, he's like, don't worry, we can keep the gas pump. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, but we're gonna have to tweak some of the other stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Again, what am I gonna do? I'm like, yes, change whatever you want. I don't care, this and even Alex had mentioned as well too. I mean, this is probably one that would not get selected now because of the gas pump. So. I think I made it right under the wire there. We did have to change. They definitely, was not they were not a big fan of promoting gas or diesel and all that stuff, and I it was included for authenticity purposes, but it really doesn't change to me like the the overall aesthetic. It still references engines and slow down, no wake, things like that, and to get scuba or fishing equipment here is fine. I mean, that makes sense too. That would that would work perfectly. So it really wasn't like a huge material change for me. I was very happy we were able to keep the gas pump. That as long as that was there, like I'm good. That would have been a huge loss. And I was able to keep the gas engine on the motorboat as well too. That's fine too. So but yeah, that was something that happened pretty much immediately. They were like, all right, we need to make these adjustments. Great. But I don't think that this would fly in a future series. Yeah. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, especially based on the guidelines now.
Could the implication just be, oh, it's an electric charger station?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. It sure looks like an old style gas pump to me, but
it's retro.
Retro, right?
Retro electric station.
Yeah, could be. And I think, and that's fine. Again, I'm happy we get, we're able to keep that. I really did like that. I like the whole story of pulling up and getting and fueling up and going, so everything else as far as the signage, I'm okay. I was okay with. Yeah.
And were there any other changes like that where slight design change from that as far as not structurally? Any other changes like that?
No, not really. Everything else was fine. There were really no concerns, content-wise, really with anything. The vast majority of the adjustments were structural stuff, stuff to make sure that it held together very nicely, and that the build flow, the instructions and the process of putting it together was enjoyable for folks. So a couple of changes there to make sure that again, things didn't fall apart in your hands while you were putting it together. Yeah. So a couple changes there. But aside from that, it was really just additions and embellishments. There's not really any other content changes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure that was huge and definitely worthy of it. We have someone in chat said, gorgeous build. Clever Pig is a channel member. Gorgeous build. This one ended up being my favorite from this wave.
Awesome. So, oh, yay. I love it.
Words there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And then another person in chat says a quote unquote decorative gas pump.
Yeah, absolutely could it
doesn't
be decorative.
Actually do anything. It's just decorative. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely a way to get around it. But I mean, starting with Series 6, they're very crystal clear around fossil fuels and stuff like that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know that it would go again.
So now that we're getting into 3 days until pre-order.
Yeah.
3 very short days.
Yikes.
How are you feeling?
I'm super nervous. I have always, since the very first kind of reach out from Alex saying, "Hey, you made it." Like my base goal is, I hope it gets produced. Like I hope it hits the 3,000. Because I really I wanted a box with my name on it, right? I designed something like that's it. Even if it just hit the 3,000 and I was able to get one, like that's it. Because I really didn't, I don't really have any expectations. I hope it does well. I think a lot of folks do like it, which is cool. It's been getting a lot of good feedback. But I'm really nervous. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping for the best, but who knows, Yeah, it's really hard. This is a very strong series, I think. Art of Chocolate is very, I mean, they're all really good. But it's a strong series, and I will be content as can be as long as I can get one, get a sealed box. Yeah.
So I will tell you, and based on and it sounds like you might have a little more experience because you were with the 2021 Invitational, so you've seen a little more of things coming and going and not making it or making it. But I think I can say without a doubt that this is at least getting 3,000 orders without a doubt. I might bet the house. I'll bet the Lego collection on it. That
I got it. Okay,
it's getting 3,000. Like
awesome.
Stud like in chat is here we go. I didn't even have to ask him. He said no nerves necessary, in all caps, guaranteed sellout. I bet my entire collection on it being produced. Yes, wow. I would also bet my entire collection on it being produced, and I will not be surprised when it sells out. But I mean, you're right. This is the only thing that makes it tough as whether or not it's going to sell out is just because there's a lot of higher prices. Normally we have some sitting in that 150.
Yep.
A couple more in the 150 so people can rationalize spending more. But we've got Forest Stronghold at 300, Art of Chocolate 230, Lost City at 290. And then, of course, I think Camping Adventure is going to sell out just because... If you're already buying one,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're already buying one, just throw a 50 bomb in there. That's an easy
absolutely.
buy.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I did with. You can kind of see it down low.
Oh yeah, the Snack Shack. Yep.
Snack Shack. I was like, I'm buying Old Train Engine Shed, so Snack Shack is an easy buy.
Absolutely.
So, I'll probably do the same because when the Art of Chocolate came out, I was like, guaranteed buy. Bricklink is amazing. This design is probably the best winter-themed set that I could think of.
Really good.
And So, and then of course the Castle People, which I've seen kind of some interesting discussion on the Forest Stronghold because there's some people that are like, they think it doesn't really make sense. It's not like a full castle. It looks too close to the Lionites castle. But I mean, the castle people, they always show up.
Oh
so.
yeah, I love it. I think it's. I mean, I'd be happy to scoop up every single one in this series. Right? I mean, yeah, I think they're all wonderful. And and that's what makes it so difficult. You know what I mean? It is. You hope yours does well, but I mean, they're just very talented designers, right? And so I just any one of these is on par with mine or better. I mean, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean they're all great. I will speak to the price. I mean, I was very because we don't know the prices of these sets until about a month before crowdfunding. So it was only a couple of weeks ago where we found out, and I was similar. I was like, all right, what's going to happen with the price? I don't know. I'm very curious. I was actually pleasantly surprised at $199 for 2,400 pieces. Okay. And I was like, great. And there's some larger pieces. There's some big plates and animals and things like that in there. So I was pleasantly surprised with the pricing. I thought it was going to actually come in a little bit higher than it was. But this is great. I mean, I think this to me, I mean, that seems like a good value for the most part. All of them were priced pretty nicely, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was expecting it to be a little bit more expensive, actually.
So I have when I do my videos on the BDP, when the finalists are selected, I always guess what the price is going to be. Yeah. And I think for this one, I said $210.
Oh, almost perfect.
Well, I think it was originally when they first dropped the prices, it was $209. It was
$209. It was an error. Yeah.
Okay, because it was $209.99, and then for Stronghold was I think there were a couple differences. For Stronghold was $289.
Yes.
And then Lost City was $299.
Yeah.
So it sounded like they already had the correct price down. Something happened.
Correct. Yeah, I think it was just either currency conversion or or maybe just even an error. Yeah, because I remember Alex hit me up right after. He's like, "Don't worry, it's not $209, it's $199." It's like nice. It's okay, but he's like, "We're getting it corrected immediately." I'm like, "Okay, got it." Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would have done it to all of them. Just knock 10. Give us $10.
Why not?
Come on.
Right. Yeah.
Knock 10 off. But no, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So have you? I'm sure you know the. And we can keep this conversation brief if you'd rather not talk about it. I definitely get it. Have you already calculated the potential earnings?
Oh my gosh. So again, I don't really.
This is just my CPA angle.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I mean, I think how you can't not do it, right? So you're like, okay, what's the best case scenario? Yes, but it's not something that again I would be very happy with it getting funded, and I'm good. But absolutely, I think anyone's going to do that. I definitely want to be realistic in my expectations.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if it sold less than 20,000 units. Personally, just seeing how the last couple series, and we can pull some of those up. Starting with Series 1, just from memory, Old Train Engine Shed sold out, Mountain Fortress sold out, Parisian Street was moderate, but even when Alex was talking, I was able to interview him for the channel. Do they actually hide the numbers?
Yeah, I don't think they have them. I don't think they have them anymore after the
I'll just go from memory
series
then.
Closed. Yeah.
And then Snack Shack, of course,
sold out. Yeah.
And General Store and Parisian Street were about the same, like 15,000, 20,000 units.
Around there, yeah.
But to his point, back in the day, the max was 10,000.
Correct.
So these poor performers are still selling better than the ceiling in the old series. So, I mean, everyone's winning everyone so far is doing very, very well.
Totally. Yeah. And I wouldn't even, awesome. I mean, there are some, look, Sleepless Night, the Forest or the Mountain Fortress, gone in like 2 hours or whatever, some
Yeah.
ridiculous thing. So that's kind of an anomaly, but I think even, yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't consider any of these, quote, poor performers or anything like that. I mean, they, 15,000, 20,000. I mean, it's amazing. It is an amazing accomplishment. Again, I'm happy with 3 as long as I can get one myself. So yeah.
Well, don't let it keep you up.
Yeah.
On we'll say Monday night. No.
Yep.
Yeah, Monday night because they go live on Tuesday.
Yep.
Don't let it keep you up. You'll definitely hit 3,000. I think you'll hit 3,000 as soon as this system can update for the sale throughput. Because we all know, what was it, Series 2? It's
gonna crash.
Yeah, it completely crashed the website.
Yeah.
And I think Alex said it was like the worst website crash that Lego had ever experienced. Or within like 45 minutes, it was the most traffic that the Lego website had ever received. Which, when you think about all these huge Star Wars launches and all this kind of stuff, is absolutely wild. But hey, we'll see if this website can handle it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, what's unique about these is that they open it up to the whole world at the same time. And so with with the other set, they may stagger them, or it's available in North America and then the following day in another but here it's like it's the same time, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, like everyone's going there right away. I definitely
that's a really good point.
Yeah, so I that does track. Hopefully the site holds up. We'll see. But yeah, so it's very exciting.
Which ones are you picking up?
So I will definitely be picking up the Camping Adventure. There's no doubt about it. Yep. And I will definitely be picking up the Art of Chocolate. Nice. For sure. I really do. Brickster is really good. I really like his stuff. He's got such a good aesthetic. And so I'll definitely be picking that up. I really do very much like the Forest Stronghold as well. I don't know if I have the space for it. I don't have a huge castle layout, but I do have a nice winter village that I bust out every year. So
awesome.
Art of Chocolate's gonna have to go. But yeah, and you make a good point on the Camping Adventure. I mean, it's a very cute little set. I'm gonna why not toss it on there? So yeah.
No, and I'm about the same. I think I'm gonna get. Well, I know I'm gonna get Harbormaster's Office, Art of Chocolate are the 2 shoe-ins, no questions asked, and then Camping Adventures. I get game day decision, but I'll rationalize that. I've already I've already bought it, so
you're already there, man. Mind. I mean, what are you gonna do? Yeah. So, just click it. It's good.
No, yeah, like you said, such a strong series.
It is a good series,
and man, I could easily buy all of them. All 5 of them, no questions asked. But I gotta say, for Series 4 or I know Series 5, I had one of them, Adventures in Transylvania.
Yeah.
I was like,
again, Sleepless Night, guys. I know, incredible. Right? It's just incredible.
It's insane. It's insane. And
of course, he's the type of guy who's just like, boy, I don't even know if I can try. I should try again. But he's great. You know what I mean? But he is. The competition is so high. Yeah, the bar is really high. So that's why I was so surprised to get selected. And I'm going to continue to participate. I have more designs coming in Series 6. I have 2 more coming out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, then Sleepless Night comes in, drops this thing, and that's the end of it. So yeah.
Did you get into the Mushroom Village, the Tiny World of Wonders, or did you not get the Mushroom House from Series
I did get the
2?
Mushroom House from I did get the Mushroom House. Yep.
So I imagine you'll follow that up with Mushroom Village.
Yeah. Again, great design. Jonas Kram, great designer.
Oh my word. Yeah, and I'm sure he's probably got something cooking for Series 6. I can only imagine. He may have already posted it in his on his Instagram, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see also what he comes up with next.
Yeah. Yep.
So you did mention that's the wrong page. You did mention you have a couple sets in series. Well, okay, this is your Series 5 set. Of course, you haven't shown your Series 6 ones yet. But just a quick couple-minute discussion about this design here. Pretty self-explanatory, but
yeah, love this design. I love this one. Most difficult thing I ever designed, without a doubt. There are, if you scroll around a little bit, let me see if you can get. There's a picture where I think you get the top view of it. If you go a little bit where it shows like the dimensions, it may not be here, but
Oh yeah, that I can pull that up on.
Yeah, that's okay. There is the boat is broken into 3 pieces and on such odd angles. Yeah, awesome. Great. Yeah, let me see if the one right to the left. I don't know. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah. So if you take a look at that like top-down view, everything's on a very odd angle. It was really, really challenging to get kind of multiple angles going at one time. So it's up on its angle, but then it's also twisted. And so a lot of ball joint usage in here and hinges. Yeah. That was definitely something where I built it a ton of times physically, it fell apart a ton of times, but then I got it right. And I really, really dig this design. It was definitely something I wanted to bring back in Series 6, but this was one of those examples where I just didn't have the pieces. There were several parts here that dropped off and were not in the Series 6 palette, and I just couldn't make it work. So actually, this one is I just tossed it on Lego Ideas a couple of days ago.
Nice.
So we'll see where it goes there. Yeah. But I really do like this one very much. This was again one of those where I just kind of had this image of a sub coming down, uncovering like a shipwreck, and this was fun to do. Definitely the most technically challenging one. Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then for Series 6, can you tell us the category, or do you?
Absolutely. No, you're good. Yeah. So I'm gonna have 2 in Series 6. I have one larger one, which is called a beach and boardwalk. So this is something that's going to be spread over 2 base plates, and it's similar, modular in nature in that they're separate. You can put them in different places, but it's one kind of long boardwalk with a beach in front, and then an ice cream shop, a gift shop, and a crab restaurant. So it definitely kind of gives you the vibes of, the Santa Monica Pier or Point Pleasant, New Jersey. So where you might have rides and street performers and things like that. So that one's pretty neat. I'm excited to reveal that one on Monday. Awesome. And then I have a smaller one that is in the medieval theme of a little horse and carriage pulling a transport that gets kind of ambushed in the forest. And that one's called Forest Encounter, and that one will be revealed as well too. Yep.
Cool. That's exciting. Yeah. I'll look forward to seeing those designs. Of course, I'll have a video out hopefully middle of next week about which. Yep. I like to pick 5 designs, trying to be as objective as possible, just what I think people will vote for and choose. So I'll have that video out next week. And looking forward to seeing your designs in the mix, of course, as well. Yep. But man, once again, thank you so much for taking the time today for this. I hope you don't have any, I guess pun intended, I hope you don't have any sleepless nights, because surefire hit to at least 3K. Like I said, I'd be surprised if it was less than 20K.
Awesome.
I'm personally counting on a sellout. Flame Shaggy just said, how does Harbormaster compare to the old fishing store? You'll have to catch it on the replay because we talked about that a lot earlier in the episode. So definitely rewatch as we're about to wrap up right now. But of course, if you want to follow Rich on Instagram, your username cracked me up. I was like, is this the right one?
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah.
But it's Rich's _ username.
That's it. Yeah,
so I love
pretty
that.
easy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Really funny. Okay, apparently my named device thought something was talking to her. Anyways. So once again, thank you so much for responding quickly and setting this up for today. It was a pleasure to talk to you about your design. I hope that we'll talk to you in the future about another set. Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I'd love to do it again anytime. Thanks so much. This has been great. And thank you so much, everyone in the chat, for hanging out with us today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'm sure Rich can either pass the answer along to me, or he himself can answer any questions you might have. But thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by today. I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday nights, and we'll see you next week.